Hey, aloha,
Nakauwi.
everybody. We just let everybody into the meeting. We're a few minutes before 6:30, so we're gonna hang tight until about 6:30, maybe a little bit after to see if we get any more guys to join, and then we're gonna get started. So
Get your
just hang
phones.
hang tight, yeah, and mute yourselves if you can. Um, I did want to get a head start on one of the things that we're gonna be using in the meeting. It's called Mentee Meter. It's an online polling app or website. You can go to mentee.com and we'll give you the code to put in to get into our list of polling questions. But you guys can go ahead and do that now, either on your phone separately or open your web browser in addition to the Zoom meeting. Uh, yeah, just giving everybody a heads up for that. It's coming. Okay, looks like we got a couple of new guys that just came into the meeting. We're just hanging tight before we get started. It's 6:30 on my clock. We're gonna wait maybe another, I don't know, 15 seconds or so before we get started. Okay, I see one person in the waiting room. We're gonna let them in, and we are ready to go. So I'm gonna turn it over to Andrew to open the meeting.
Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the DHHL General Plan Update meeting. Before we get started with the formal presentation, I would like to ask U Lota of our planning office to give us a pule to open the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. E pulikako, if you'll bow your heads. Our dear, kind, and gracious Heavenly Father, we are so humbled and grateful for the opportunity to come before all to do the DHHL General Plan update and for the input and the sharing of everyone's mana'o. As we gather this evening, we humbly ask that Thy Spirit fill each and every one of us, that we partake of what is important for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and its Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. And we so humbly ask that Thy Spirit be with each and every one of us and Thy blessings be upon all of us this day and all of the hard work that's put into this by its staff, its consultants, and its beneficiaries. And this evening, as we depart, we humbly ask that continued communications continue to flow so that together much may be gained for the Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. And these things we so humbly pray for in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Andrew Choi. I'm the Acting Planning Program Manager at the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And again, welcome to the DHHL General Plan Update meeting. This is meeting number 3 of our first round of meetings. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to join us this evening. The department is developing an update for the 2002 General Plan, which will establish a vision and policies that guide statewide land management and DHHL programs for the next 20 years. As part of the planning framework, the General Plan update provides a comprehensive policy that ensures coordinated, integrated, and orderly social, physical, and economic development of Hawaiian homelands through the establishment of goals, objectives, and implementing actions. The input that we receive tonight from beneficiaries will go a long way in helping to shape and form this general plan update. With us tonight, we have SSFM International that will help us through the meeting. They are our main consultants that is assisting the department with this update of the general plan. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jared Chang, who will facilitate tonight's meeting.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Aloha kako, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting. My name is Jared Chang, like Andrew said, and I'm going to be the facilitator tonight. And also, like what Andrew said, this is the third and last meeting for our first round of beneficiary meetings. for the general plan update. For tonight's agenda, here it is. I'm going to start with some meeting kuleana, so just some rules for all of us to follow and some announcements. We're going to move into a quick Mentee Meter poll for all of you to respond to give us some idea of who's participating in these meetings. Then we're going to get into the presentations. We have a lot to cover. We're going to start with an overview of the general plan and update process. I'm going to present on the vision and have a discussion following that. Then we're going to cover some background on where we've been and where we're going. And finally, we're going to wrap up with closing and next steps. So have a full agenda, but the most important thing for us tonight is to hear from everyone on this call, get your input on the plan and the presentations that we're doing tonight. Okay, next slide. Team introductions. You heard from Andrew Choi. He's the Acting Planning Program Manager. Also with us tonight is Julianne Cachola. She's a planner at DHHL, also working on this plan with us. From my team, myself over there, Jared Chang. We also have Melissa May, who's our project manager and a senior planner. Malachi Krishak and Matthew Fernandez, who are also planners with SSFM. We're all working on this plan together. Okay, here are the meeting kuleana. Pretty simply, we ask that everybody be respectful of the person talking, not to interrupt. Make sure that you're muted until you're called upon to unmute yourself. When you have a question or you want to get my attention or the attention of anyone on our team, we ask that you raise your hand in Zoom, and I'll cover that in the next slide, the next couple of slides. Wait for me to call on you, or you can use the chat function to type either a question and I'll call on you, or you can type your question right into the chat box and I'll read it out loud. When addressing any other participants, please be respectful, show aloha, and treat others the way you want to be treated. We all have to agree to disagree sometimes, and we all have to accept that others may have different perspectives and opinions, and they're all important. And finally, just have an open mind. And we want everybody to take home any new ideas or new information that we share tonight. And we want to make sure that you get that information. Okay, here's a quick description of the goals for our first round of beneficiary meetings. And like I said, this is the last of 3 identical meetings that we're holding for round 1. The goals for this round of meetings for beneficiaries are basically to introduce the project and the project team, to gather your input on the vision statement for the general plan, and then finally report on the progress for the current general plan and discuss the goals going forward. You may have also noticed on the opening slide that we are recording these meetings. I just want to say that, and that's so we can broadcast the meetings on each island with each island's public access TV station. And finally, we encourage all of you to visit the virtual open house and the DHHL website to sign up to receive announcements from us anytime we have these meetings and anything that comes up for review. We want to get it to you as quickly as we can so you can review it. And we'll cover how to do that later on when we talk about the virtual open house. Okay, how to use Zoom. So we're using the Zoom platform. And there's going to be several ways where we're going to be able to interact with everybody tonight through Zoom. The first one will be, we will be monitoring the chat box and the raised hand function to call on you when you want to speak or if you want to ask a question. So starting on what we're showing here on this slide is basically the control bar that shows up on Zoom. And now if you cannot find this thing, sometimes it hides. So you got to hover your mouse over the Zoom window, and then you'll see this bar, I think probably on the bottom of your screen. On the left side is the mute button. It looks like a microphone. You know you're unmuted when there's no line through that icon. And similarly for your video too, you know your video is on when there's no line. So please keep yourself muted until called upon. The other way to raise your hand to ask a question and for me to see it, you go to the participants icon down there in the controls. You'll see icon to raise your hand, and Matt's got his cursor circling around the raise hand function. So once you click on that button, it'll show everyone and me that you have your hand raised, and it'll be a cue for me to call on you for you to ask your question or make your comment. And what will happen is I'll call on you, you go ahead and unmute yourself by clicking on the unmute button, and then you're free to go. The other one is to use the chat function. So that's that red box on the right. Yeah, Matt's got his cursor on there right now. If you click on that icon, it'll open the chat box. And in there, you can type your comment or question. Or if you type question, I'll call on you, similar to the raised hand function. Okay, and if you guys have any problems finding this throughout the meeting, you know, if you cannot find any of these things, just, you know, wave your hands, you raise your hand in your video, and I'll hopefully see it, or somebody on our team will see it, and then I'll call on you that way, and we'll try and help you that way. Okay, I think that's that for this one. Next one. All right, this is one of the other ways we're going to be using to interact with everybody in this meeting, and it's called Mentee Meter. Now, this is either an application that you can download to your phone, or you can use your web browser and go directly to mentee.com. And if you go to that website, and I would encourage everyone on this call to go ahead now and open up your web browser or your app or your web browser on your phone, go to mentee.com and enter the code. We're going to have a series of questions throughout this meeting for you to respond to. Then we can get your input and we can show everybody all the responses coming in. And once you sign in to Mentee, leave it open, because you don't have to sign in again every time for each question. You can just go through the slides and answer the questions. So let's see, go to mentee.com, enter the code on the screen. It's 48428107. Matt from our team is posting the link to mentee.com in the chat function plus the code, and he'll do that occasionally throughout the meeting just in case you lose it, or you get disconnected or something. So for right now, everybody do this now, and we have a couple of questions we're gonna kick off with. Yeah, so there's one of the questions. But one last thing to say about Mentee Meter is any personal information that we ask for in Mentee Meter, your name, email address, stuff like that, it'll be kept confidential. It's for our use to understand who's attending our meetings. We want to make sure we are having good participation across the state with all beneficiaries. Well, I guess wherever beneficiaries are. Okay, so that's that. Now we're right into the first couple of Mentee Meter questions. Looks like 4 of you have already responded. Now there's 5. The first one was just about where you are calling in from or joining us from. And then the second one helps us understand what type of beneficiary or other you are. So we're just gonna stay on this for maybe a minute just to see the numbers come in. Looks like we got 7 responses so far. And there's, give or take, 30 of us in this meeting. So you got 11 so far, got 5 lessees, got about 6 on the waiting list. Okay, well, I guess we're on question 3. This is where people are calling in from. Maui, Waimanalo, Papakolea, at home in Nanakuli, Ho'olehua Molokai, Lanai, Kauai, Eva Beach, Kaneohe. All right, looks like we got about 14 responses. Pretty good. You can see where everybody's calling in from. I hope everybody's staying safe out there and staying dry. All right, hopefully you guys got used to using Mentee Meter. We're gonna continue to use this throughout the meeting. So leave your web browser open or your app open. You actually can advance to the questions that we have later on in the meeting. You can go ahead and do that. But what I would like you to do is come back to the one that has vision on the opening slide, because that's where the next set of questions are going to start. So I'll prompt you at the right time to get back to that vision part of Mentee Meter. All right, and with that, we're gonna move into our first presentation for tonight. This is the general plan update process by Melissa May, our project manager.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Melissa May. Nice to see you all here. Glad you could make it and join us tonight. As Jared mentioned, I'm the project manager for this project with SSFM. I'm a community planner, and I've been working with SSFM and doing planning in Hawaii for about the last 15 years or so. And I always love working with DHHL and the different homestead communities. And so I'm just really looking forward to hearing from you tonight and working with you throughout this process to capture what you'd like to see over the next 20 years for this trust. So please, sit back and make yourself comfortable. And I'm just going to give you a brief update overview of this general plan update process. Next slide, please. So what is the general plan? You can see here that it sits at the top of the planning system for DHHL. So it really is the overarching guide for all of DHHL's different plans. And that includes the plans at the island level, regional level, development level, strategic plans. And it's also used to guide decision-making on funding, legislation, and land use. So it's a really important document, and it really sets the tone for DHHL in making all of these plans and decisions. And so your input into this process is really critical and is a great opportunity to help set this direction over the next 20 years and beyond. We're building in an evaluation program into this. That way, it's a way of evaluating how DHHL is progressing on the goals and the policies that will be outlined in the general plan, and keep track of that so that they can adjust along the way as needed to meet the goals. Next slide, please. So the last general plan that was prepared was in 2002, and this was really the first comprehensive planning effort by DHHL and the first attempt to make this kind of guiding document. And it covers 7 different policy areas, and it has goals and objectives under each. And so you can see them listed here, different kinds of land use, as well as water, resource management, economic development, and community building. And while it sounds comprehensive, you can download and see this plan on the project website. It's only 6 pages long. And so, it's very high level. And based on interviews that we've done to date, it hasn't been widely used in DHHL's planning and implementation, probably because it's so high level. So one of the things we're hoping to do in this process is to make it more useful and more relevant to not only DHHL, but the beneficiaries as well. Next slide. So what we hope to achieve, this plan will set the vision and policies to guide the Hawaiian Homelands Trust and all DHHL programs, policies, and plans over the next 20 years. It needs to meet minimum requirements that are established in Hawaii administrative rules that were passed just a couple of years ago, and I'll go through in a minute. It's going to attempt to create an innovative and pragmatic plan that is useful to the staff, the commissioners, beneficiaries, and decision makers, and getting everyone on the same page about where DHHL is going and where they want to be in 20 years. And it will identify measures of success so that we can assess progress and how we're doing along the way. Next slide. So I mentioned that there were Hawaii administrative rules adopted. These were done in 2018, so they're pretty new, and the last plan was not subject to these requirements. So we've got, this is what we have to achieve with this current update. The first 2 are requirements related to land use designations. And so if you've ever looked at the island plans, they all have different categories of land use. And basically, with this general plan, we need to establish one system of land use designations that all the island plans should use. And we need to also establish the relationship between those land use designations and how those lands are, the dispositions that are used, or how those lands are awarded. The next 4 deal with criteria for land use. So lands that should be used for homesteading or lands not required for homesteading within the planning period, which is 20 years. We also need to establish criteria to identify lands for revenue generation for the trust, as well as lands for community use and policies about how the community can manage those lands. Number 7 is to establish standards for infrastructure and community facilities, or determine how best to do that. And then finally, indicators to measure progress so that we know when we've achieved success or when we're falling short. Next slide, please. So there's 3 main tasks that we're undertaking right now as part of the update process. And the first one, we started a few months ago. We've just been doing some homework, researching what's happened over the last 20 years and really even over the last 100 years with the trust. What are the major events that have shaped the Hawaiian Homelands Trust? And we've been researching also what has happened since the 2002 general plan that we might need to consider in the update. So we've done that through researching things like the DHHL annual reports and other documents. We've interviewed some of the past and current staff, as well as some of the former chair people. And we've prepared an initial internal report card kind of to basically look at the 2002 general plan goals and say, what's happened? You know, have these been implemented or partly or not at all? So you'll hear more about that in this meeting. And then now what we're here to do tonight is to talk about the vision statement, getting everyone on the same page about where we want to be in 20 years. We'll also be preparing white papers. So white papers are going to dig deeper on some of the key policy issues for the plan and some of the requirements of the administrative rules. Stakeholder engagement is a really important part of this as well. So, you know, that means keeping beneficiaries posted and involved throughout the entire process. So, you know, we've developed things like the website, the online open house that Jared mentioned. There's a fact sheet that you guys can download and share. We're going to be conducting 2 rounds of 6 virtual meetings statewide. So this is number 3 of 12 in total. We're going to be doing online open houses to coincide with each round of meetings. We've formed an investigative committee. So that's basically just a kind of a working group with current DHHL staff and some of the commissioners to help us make sure that we're engaging beneficiaries statewide and help us advise us on the framing of the plan. And we'll also be going to the Hawaiian Homes Commission to keep them posted along the way, because ultimately they'll be adopting this plan. So to get to a final plan, the last task is plan development. We want to make sure that the end product is, you know, user-friendly, is visually appealing, something that people can, you know, look at and understand and be proud of, and that articulates a shared vision and policies for the trust. So, you know, we're going to develop an outline of how the plan will be organized. There'll be a draft that will be circulated for beneficiary review, and then a final plan to be submitted to the Hawaiian Homes Commission. Next slide, please. So here's just a quick bird's eye view of the schedule, and you can see it's about 2 years long, and we are in the first round of statewide beneficiary consultation right now. We started our research and interviews of what's been happening over the last 20 years a few months ago, and we're working toward the release of the beneficiary review draft near the end of this year. Hopefully, you know, once we get everyone's comments and integrate them into the document, we'll have a final plan around the middle of next year. Next slide, please. So I just really want to emphasize that your participation is super important to this process. And, you know, in order to make sure that the plan meets the needs and reflects the values of the beneficiaries today and into the future, we really want to hear from you. And, you know, there's a lot of ways that we've tried to make it easy to provide your mana'o into the process. So these virtual meetings are just one way. And as I mentioned, there's going to be 12 of them total. But there's also online open houses, and we're going to show you the online open house a little later. And it's a really cool kind of new way to interact with material online. And you can do that at your own convenience, and you can dig deep into the materials and provide us as much input as you want that way. And we hope you'll check it out. And then there's also going to be the review draft. So hopefully by the end of this year, you'll have a chance to actually look at a draft plan and provide your comments on that. You can always submit testimony to the commission, and you can always check the project website for information. And there's a comment form and contact information on the website also. So any of those tools are available to you. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit more on one other plug on that online open house we keep talking about. And you'll see on the open house that there are recorded versions of the presentations that we're giving today, and you can download the slides as well. There's interactive documents and polls, and there's an online comment form. And I just want to say, to make it easy and convenient for you, we recommend that you register for just a free account. Otherwise, anytime you leave a comment, you'll have to leave your name and email. And if you just register one time for free, then anytime you come back, you can log in, and you won't have to do that every time. So just one way to make it a little bit easier for you. Next slide, please. I think that's my last slide. It is. So look forward to hearing what you all have to say tonight, and I'll hand it back to Jared. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Before I get into this next section, Matt from our team has posted a link to the virtual open house in the chat. So I'd encourage everybody, go ahead, open that link, start checking it out during this meeting. And Kanani had a question, will we have a PowerPoint copy of this presentation? The answer is yes, it is already available on the open house. There's two ways you can absorb the PowerPoint that we're giving tonight. You can take it in the sections that we're doing now, and so you can see it on the open house. We have recorded ourselves giving the presentation. So there's a voiceover which with each slide, if you want to hear what we say, or you can just go ahead and download the whole PowerPoint one time. And there's a link to do that right on that first section of the open house. All right, that's the question there. So I'm gonna get into the next section, and I'm doing this one. So in this part of the presentation, we're gonna start covering the vision for the future. So the purpose of creating a vision statement for the general plan, and then I'm gonna describe the types of input that we want from everybody in this round of consultation on the vision, okay? So let's go to the next slide. So some setup slides here about what is the vision. So the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's general plan is a statewide vision-based document, and it starts with the vision statement. So now this is your opportunity to give us input, give the department input that will set the major direction for the department over the next 20 years. So taking us to 2040. The vision statement is intended to provide a unified direction for actions by the homesteads, the department, and the commission. It is not a statement of how problems get solved, but rather it is a shared description of an outcome or a destination so that everybody's headed to in the right direction. So in this graphic, we have a sailing canoe. We're showing DHHL alongside you, the beneficiaries, heading towards a single destination. That destination is basically what we're calling the shared vision for 2040. He kuleana ko kako is written on the side of it, just to signify that we all have a responsibility in this journey and identifying what that vision is. So setting the vision requires everybody who has a stake in it. And there's lots of ways to get from point A to B. We can acknowledge that. But the key for this exercise in this round of consultation is for all of us to define and agree what point B is. What is the destination? So what is the vision for 2040? Okay, so as we start to think and talk about vision together, here are two questions that you can use to help guide your thinking. The first one is to imagine what success would look like in 20 years or the year 2040 if the vision is achieved. And the second is to ask yourself what principles or what values would we need to follow or incorporate into the making of the vision that would lead us towards achieving that vision. So keep these in mind as we get to the discussion part of this section. Okay, next slide. Okay, vision versus mission. So the first general plan completed in 2002 established a mission statement for the department. And I'm going to read it. It's shown here in italics. Our mission is to manage the Hawaiian Homelands Trust effectively and to develop and deliver lands to Native Hawaiians. We will partner with others towards developing self-sufficient and healthy communities. So pretty straightforward, not too long. Now, as the department's mission statement, this is basically a summary of what the department must do and how to do it. The vision statement, on the other hand, is a shared description of where you want to go. So like I was saying earlier, the vision statement describes where we want to be in 2040 and what the relationships between the department, the beneficiaries, and the commission will look like. The general plan from 2002 did not include a vision statement. So now, we all have the opportunity here together to define it. What is the vision statement and what does success look like in 2040? Okay, I'm going to give a couple examples of vision statements taken from recent regional plans by the department. This is just to give you an idea of get the motor thinking rolling in your brain about how to think about these things. So each one of these vision statements that I'm going to share basically describes the beneficiary's vision of a successful homestead community, and then each one provides a unified destination for the homestead, the department, and the commission, and guides actions by everybody, essentially. So let's go to the first one. I'm going to read these, and then I'll talk a little bit about each one. So Molokai beneficiaries are thriving on the land where the way of life and sense of community continue to hold strong. Acknowledging the diversity of each homestead on Molokai, we envision a unified community grounded in Hawaiian values and cultural traditions passed to us from our kupuna. Core values are preserved while embracing modern pathways to a sustainable future. So now the principles that the Molokai beneficiaries used to develop this vision statement included these elements. One, a unification under a foundation of Hawaiian values and cultural traditions. Another one was thriving on the land means having access to water. The third one is maintaining a sense of aloha and ohana on the island. And the last main one was respecting the kuleana for the aina passed down from kupuna. Okay. The next one is from the Kealakehe La'i Opua community in Big Island. I'm going to read this one. Kealakehe La'i Opua is a community with a strong sense of aloha, pride in their homestead, and appreciation for the place. The community and DHHL supports its people by promoting education, self-sufficiency, and providing additional homesteading opportunities for more Native Hawaiian families in the Kealakehe La'i Opua region. So this one's pretty fresh, and what that community used to develop this vision statement was based on the following guiding principles. That included Hawaiian community, sense of aloha, strength of its people, self-sufficiency, pride in a place, and need for more homes. So you can see how these elements build into a vision statement, hopefully. So just to get the gears turning as we get into our discussion. And finally, one last sort of example as a setup slide to get the thinking. Here's another way to look at where the vision statement fits in with the general plan. And we're calling this the theory of change. So first, if we start with the left side of this graphic and we ask ourselves, if DHHL fulfills its mission to manage the Hawaiian Homelands Trust effectively and to develop and deliver lands to Native Hawaiians, aim towards developing self-sufficient and healthy communities, then beneficiaries will be empowered to achieve a shared vision with the department and the commission, guided by the right principles and values. And finally, together, the outcome would lead to success in achieving that vision or what was envisioned. And that part of it is basically our vision statement. What is the success that we're trying to describe for 2040? And that's the outcome we're aiming for in this next part of the discussion. And we're calling that our destination. Okay, now we're gonna get back into Mentee Meter. We have a slide here showing, the website mentee.com, or if you have it on your phone, there's the code. Hopefully everybody still has it up, but for all you new guys that joined in the middle of either Melissa's or my presentations, please go to Mentee. We're using that as a polling tool to get information in this meeting. All right, so if you get back to where it says vision, or if you're already there, you can go ahead and move into the next question. Well, I guess the first question of this section. And we're asking, in 20 years, beneficiaries will be, and then you fill in the blank. So it looks like we already got 8 responses. I encourage everyone to put in your responses here. And we left these next set of questions pretty open because we want to get as broad a sense of ideas for the vision as we can as we start to mold this down. So I'm going to read some of these off. In 20 years, beneficiaries will be still waiting, period, dead. I want to see all the beneficiaries in a home or homestead, on the land, each with kalo, lo'i, pigs, chickens, and a traditional hale, waiting and being controlled by government. Answered in first meeting. Looks like we got some guys who attended another meeting. Nobody forced to have a lifelong fear-filled relationship with a bank. In 20 years, beneficiaries will be on the land, dead due to blood quantum, hopefully on homestead lands, no waitlisters, a healthy and thriving lahui, empowered, younger, and hopefully perpetuating the culture debt-free. All right, 18 comments so far, pretty good. Pretty good. Why don't we go to the next question? Okay, only 6 so far. So in this next question, we're asking, in 20 years, or by 2040, we envision homestead communities that are, so what are our communities going to look like? More connected with their culture, financially independent, fruitful, more engaged with DHHL, self-sustainable, cohesive, hopefully rooted, self-sufficient. I like where these are going. Self-reliant, thriving, strong and thriving, traditional, very good, connected. All right, got about 18, 19 Hawaiian homes. 20, got 20, about 20 responses so far out of give or take 40 people in this meeting. Pretty good. Working together to achieve a common goal, rooted, grounded, thriving. All right, some common threads here in these. Very good. Why don't we go to the next question? Okay, in 20 years, the relationship, well, in 20 years or by the year 2040, the relationship between DHHL and beneficiaries will be. Now, how do you guys envision what the relationship will be like 20 years from now? More connected and interactive, more positive and transparent, more positive. With the right people, one ohana. Hope DHHL is more helpful and paper easier, pa'a and pono. Moving in the same direction. Still strained until we, the beneficiaries, are able to choose our own commissioners. Now that might be a result of not achieving the vision that we're trying to develop here. Completed, DHHL would have placed everyone into homes And the department will have evolved into a maintenance department. Pono, professional and caught up, transparent and community minded. These are very good. Cohesive. Still confrontational as long as governor appoints commissioners. Again, maybe a result of not achieving the vision that we come up with in this process. Supportive. Without the department. Without the department. I'd like to hear from who, well, I guess for all of you guys that are putting these in, we are just capturing it in Mentee, but we want to have a discussion about whatever your thoughts are on these right after we get through this Mentee. And I think this is the last question. Is this our last question on the vision?
Yep. Yeah, there's the last one. Then we have a discussion. Open
All right.
discussion.
Knowledgeable. In 20 years, a relationship would be knowledgeable, helpful. Moot, DHHL will no longer be needed in its existing form. Realigned, transparent. DHHL having to earn the Hawaiian community's trust and working for the benefit of beneficiaries. 23 comments. All right, good. Very good. I like these. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation. And then we have a discussion slide with a question. How else would you describe the destination we hope to get to in 20 years? Now, this is just a open-ended question. At this time, I'm gonna ask any of you guys either have a question or you want to speak what's on your mind. Now is the time. We're gonna open it up for a discussion, and you can answer this question, or you can just let us know what you're thinking about vision. So like I was saying, you can either use your raise your hand function in Zoom. That's in your control panel at the bottom of the Zoom window. Or you can type question in chat and I'll call on you. You can unmute yourself or I will I'll ask your question. All right, would anybody like to elaborate on some of their responses to the Mentee questions or give us your thoughts on why you provided a particular vision, either for the relationship between DHHL and the beneficiaries or vision for your community?
You
want to ask him?
I see some action over there, and Allison. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Kaylee was wondering, well, two things. Can we, these kind of questions, can we submit like kind of more extensive testimony to you guys? It'll still go in under all of this, what do they call this? Beneficiary consultation?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. There is probably two ways you can do it. So you're going to get our contact information at the end of this presentation. You can email it directly to us or you can call one of us. Or probably the better way is to go to our open house website. And then we actually have these questions up there too. And then a spot where you can write in whatever you want, response to the questions or to the vision statement part. And that's, you can
I
put
think
it.
this would be more like an extended answer to the question that you're asking right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
do this.
Yep. So a couple ways to do it.
Kaylee, yeah, you guys do any of you guys speak Hawaiian? Or we should always talk in English?
I do not.
Okay, okay, that's okay. We'll just talk in English. Kaylee was wondering about for the next 20-year vision, whether DHHL could migrate back a little bit more towards actually enabling traditional lifestyle, Hawaiian living lifestyles, like able to build your own hale and able to raise pigs and chickens instead of everyone everyone waiting to be qualified for a mortgage and all of that kind of stuff. And you know, and another thing he was saying was having to depend on someone to build a house out of imported foreign materials, etc., instead of families building a house together like traditionally.
Oh, yeah. Only, yeah.
I think that are great comments that we're gonna capture in this process. And I don't think you're the only ones in pursuing that sort of direction in the vision from what we've heard in these past couple of meetings and what we've heard in our interviews so far. So I think that's great. Okay, I don't see any hands raised, but I do see some comments coming in to the chat. One from Kanani.
There, you had a hand raised, Jared.
Oh, is there, oh, okay, I see it. Kay Johnson. Calling
Hi,
on you.
aloha.
Go ahead. Hi. Aloha.
Hi. Hi, aloha. I'm calling from Kauai, and thank you for the presentation. My concern is our next generation. I'm still on the wait list. And I would love to see DHHL increase the distribution of land, like eliminating the existing waiting list, like 20% every 5 years. I think it's important that our people that have been waiting, like, that list needs to be shortened. And if they can figure something out where they could eliminate that list, I think people would be a lot happier, as that brother said earlier. Even if it's not, definitely not going into debt, but finding the ways to support our people, to build something very simple, but to be on the AINA. And in the next 20 years, I would love to see the funding that comes into DHHL from the government to train our youth to farm the AINA. There's so much land, and really learn how to develop food security so that we can feed our people and we can feed our community. I think it's super important. And if we can increase, so in other words, if we can increase our usage of the land. So this is not the homestead, but this is like the ag lands that we can learn to develop that, and decrease our imports by 80% in 20 years. So if every 5 years we can knock off 20%, then by 5 years we might be exporting food instead of importing, but really concentrate. I mean, there is money in food. There is money that grows on trees, just in case we didn't recognize that by now. We're buying fruits from Philippines, South America. I mean, we all know how that goes, but I think we need to start really thinking about us as a Lahui and how we're going to take care of our people. seriously. I mean, not just talking about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, for our team, and I'm sure, I mean, we've been hearing those kind of comments a lot. So I know you're not alone in thinking to those concepts for this plan. So thank you for that.
Thank you
Okay.
for listening.
I think, let's see, I heard somebody message me that Doreen might have had a hand up. I see you. Go ahead. You can go. You're unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my concern is I read an article, I believe in the Civil Beat or the Advertiser, that with the 200,000 acres, there's no way we can put every Hawaiian on the land. Is that true? And are you familiar with that article?
Me not coming to mind. Did anyone on our team know that article?
My next, a related question is, all these years, why can DHHL not purchase land? Or why cannot DHHL lease land from DLNR? Because supposedly that's crown lands. A lot of them is crown lands, right?
So Ron, what I hear you saying is that the department should be looking at acquiring other lands outside of the 200,000 acre
Primarily
trust.
the crown lands.
Mhm. So
Why not?
looking at
That's land belong to Hawaiians anyway.
looking at potential DLNR lands that the department should take a look at possibly acquiring and utilizing for the trust and for the beneficiaries.
Oh, Andrew, since I got you, remember when we did the regional plans? Lower Pianoa? And I asked you to tell me how much of the lands are conservation. And you came back to me and you said 15%. Now, I'm sure DHHL did not put those land into conservation because there's no way in the act that says you can designate land to be conservation. So I feel that's either federal or state. To me, by putting into conservation, they basically stole the lands from Native Hawaiians because we cannot use that 15%. So I feel they should compensate us, state or federal, by giving us lands in place of those that they put under conservation. Remember that subject I brought up with you?
I think that's a great comment, and I think well we'll get to it more towards the end of this meeting, but the next round of meetings will be about land uses and about how the department categorizes its lands in the future. If lands are not suitable for homesteading, what other benefits can our beneficiaries receive from those lands? A lot of people have expressed to us in other meetings that like Malama'aina activities that have a more intrinsic value to beneficiaries who participate in those types of activities is one form of benefit. But yeah, I think what you're getting at, Ron, is really relevant to the general plan discussion about how the department utilizes its lands and the designations of those lands. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, but I see the chat kind of blowing up with some sidebar conversations. So for you guys,
I saw Kanani Momoa raise her physical hand.
Oh, okay. I see you, Kanani. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Aloha kako, mahalo na kauilimai. Thank you for taking our questions. It's super important. I just had a question. I may have missed this part, but when Hawaiian homes are awarded, how come we don't have like a say in how, because it's prefabricated or it's already made. So I kind of feel like we're put at a disadvantage because we're already put into that, rather than if we're given a residential lot and we're building what we can afford and putting stuff like catchment and alternative energy, it'll give us more of a chance to get out of debt. So I'm not too clear on that process. If you can just give me a little bit more information on that.
So the department does provide what we call a vacant lot, which is kind of what you're describing, where we just provide the infrastructure and then the beneficiary has the opportunity to build a house to what they can afford. So those types of opportunities have been provided in the past. What the department has also heard from some beneficiaries is that they would rather also accept a ready built house, something that you can get the key and just open the door and go inside. So it sounds like, based on some of the conversations we've had with different beneficiaries, that there is a variety of housing options that the department should be providing, including offering a vacant lot, so that those beneficiaries who would prefer to build something more affordable or something more to their taste is adequate. So I think, yeah, so in 20 years, you'd want to see the department offering more vacant lot opportunities or more opportunities for beneficiaries to build something that they can afford. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's important. Okay. The next one I had on my list, Kekahili. I see you. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, I had typed in a message. About a month ago, it was communicated that DHHL didn't have enough money to build more homes. So they came up with this suggestion about a casino. So, although I appreciate this conference and, us sharing our mana'o, I just want to know, are we wasting our time doing this if you don't have any money? I mean, why are we doing this if we don't have money?
That's a really good question. So I guess it's kind of a chicken or egg thing with us, with the department and with the way the state funding works. We know that right now we don't have sufficient funding to build for the 28,000 on the wait list. We need more funding. What form that takes, whether one proposal from the department recently was to build a casino, but obviously that was not passed by the legislature. So there is a funding shortfall that the department will have to address. In addition to that, I guess, going back to your question, what is the utility out of this conversation and what is the utility of planning? When we do make funding requests to the legislature always asks us, what's your plan? So this type of conversation helps us get to more specific plans about why we should get funding from the legislature. So when the legislature asks us, what's your plan? We have a specific plan. So for instance, like the last question that Kanani raised about getting more vacant lot opportunities, that's the type of input we need in order to provide more products that are better suited to the preferences of our beneficiaries. So I guess to answer your question, yes, we don't have money to build all of the homesteads that we need to build for our waitlist beneficiaries, but we need to have these conversations in order to develop a plan so that we can present those plans to the legislature with our funding requests.
I have another question to add on to what I just asked you, Andrew. I appreciate your honesty. I think to help with some of these plans, you should do these Zoom meetings and ask for ideas that the people can support DHHL with doing to come up with creative ideas, such as what some of these messages I've seen, you know, providing lands to be self-sufficient, you know, to sell foods and make monies, you know. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking out of the box, but I think that's something that you should be seeking from the beneficiaries for some ideas so that you can get the support that you need from the legislature.
Yeah, I think that's part of the goal here. You know, we're trying to get everybody on the same page in this general plan to set a vision, and together, you know, with the commission, the beneficiaries, and the department all striving towards the same vision, your voices are much stronger at the ledge. That's what I'm hearing.
Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, so I had two hands up, Ka'aka and then Mapuana. So I'll go with Ka'aka first. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Aloha kako, I'm Ka'aka Swain. I am a current beneficiary leasee in Keaukaha. In our East Side District, we have a lot of industrial lands that is DHHL, like Walmart and the Plaza is under DHHL, as well as Home Depot. And there, some of the leases across the street in the industrial area, they're coming up for renewal. DHHL is continuously struggling to find money. Apparently, this is always the thing, that DHHL doesn't have money to do this or that. Why can't we have, on any island, actually on all the islands, have those non-Hawaiians paying market value lease rent? Why is it okay to have them just pay the same dollar that the beneficiaries have to pay for our lease? Because they're not included in the act. I would also like to see, like, in the next 20 years, more Hawaiians using those lands and those business areas in order to be able to have their businesses there. Yeah, for market and building self-sufficiency. That's my comment for where we want to be in the next 20 years.
Thank you. I think that's good. I don't know the details of how much
Yeah, we should
what
clarify.
the rate is.
We should clarify that. Yeah.
I think, yeah, to clarify, for the non-homestead leases, so these are the industrial leases that you're referring to, those are charged at market rate. The exact amounts are reported in our annual reports. Those are online, and I'll try to find it and post a link to some of our annual reports in the chat so you can take a look, so you can actually see what the department charges for those lessees. So it is market rate. It's not $1 a year.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for that comment. Next I had Ka'aka and then Jolene. So Ka'aka, Mapuana. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Aloha, Mapuana from Mokuoke'awe, Keaukaha specifically, aloha. I have a question because it came out when the casino issue came, you know, everybody in Pu'iwa, and that happened. But I did hear the deputy chair say the beneficiary consultation comes after the proposal. Is that clear? Like, has something been proposed already? Or did I just hear that? That came from Deputy Gomes, that the proposal comes first and then consultation comes after. Am I correct, Julie? Is there...
Yeah, I heard the same thing, but I don't know. Andrew, do you have any clarification on that?
I think my recollection of his comment was that, and I think Mapuana, you're referring to his testimony in front of the Hawaiian Homes Commission, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I think what he was referring to was that usually the department gets the approval of a legislative idea from the commission prior to sending it out to the legislature. And I think this is not, I'm trying to interpret his comment, but I think what he meant was we needed the commission's blessing to send it to the legislature for more public discourse and discussion in the legislature, at the legislature. In addition to that, based on the commission's comments on the proposal and the timing of the proposal, a lot of the commissioners strongly urged the department to conduct beneficiary consultation. So based on the direction from the commission to the department subsequently conducted beneficiary consultation meetings in January. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Well, I think I'm kind of confused, because if we're doing beneficiary consultation, has some of this what we're discussing tonight been proposed to the commissioners as well ahead of time, so that you can bring it out to the beneficiaries? Because it kind of seems you're gonna get our mana'o first. I mean, that's what I would like to think, that our mana'o is coming out first, and then all of that gets taken to the commissioners. But
so,
because of his statement, it kind of threw me for so you're gonna do all of that first, so you know what's coming up before you're gonna be letting the beneficiaries know. So I'm just trying to figure out where do we stand in this as well.
Okay, so for this general plan process, what you just articulated, coming out to the beneficiaries early in the process to get beneficiary mana'o is what we are doing right now. Based on the schedule that Melissa shared earlier in the presentation, we don't expect to have a final plan until probably the middle of 2022. So that's why we're having our meetings now in 2021, early in the process to collect mana'o. I know that the whole casino thing is a controversial topic, but I just want to kind of clarify that this general plan process is separate and distinct from that casino conversation.
Mahalo, I have one more, I think it's bugging me. And the other question is, in our last, there was the big monarchy action going on for Act 14. It's taken us that long to make sure that those rules that were implemented years ago or whatever is only now coming to fruition. So if it's 20 plus years for Act 14 to be revisited, how good is a plan for 20 years if we're not implementing it as we're moving through it? You know what I mean? Like, it's taken 20 plus years to bring that issue back up that was done. I don't know, Auntie Ann Nathaniel that sat on that committee. And how fast, I mean, I'm just trying, I'm at a loss, sorry. I'm just trying to figure out if that didn't happen up on the Mauna this past year, and that was more to bring awareness to some of how things move fast, slow, whatever. How committed is the state to fulfilling their own obligations? They haven't fulfilled that as well for Act 14 in the use of the road up to Mauna Kea. I mean, I don't think there would have been a controversy or a discussion about it if there was work going on along the way that it took that to come to. I think that's sorry, but those are questions. So if we're planning for 20 years and what that looks like, and we've gone 20 plus years in part of something that we've done some work on earlier, what is the obligation?
I think those are really deep questions. And I think what I hear you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we need to make sure that the state fulfills its longstanding obligations, whether it be Act 14 or other obligations that have been unfulfilled. So in the period of the next 20 years, we need to continuously advocate for fulfillment of previous settlements or debts that are owed to the department. Am I hearing you correctly, or am I missing the mark?
No, mahalo, Andrew, you stated it quite eloquently. So mahalo. I think it's just making us aware that these things do not need to come up if we're all doing what we're supposed to do. Because I don't see a problem when DHHL wants to take a home away from a lessee. So we're looking for beneficiary consultation. You know, so who, yeah, I think the weight, how is it weighed out when you're coming to us for that? And are we being treated fairly right across the board? What I really think Hawaiian Homes has been poor business managers, honestly. So that's just my thoughts. So mahalo.
Yeah, thank you, Mapuana. I have Jolene and then Home.
Aloha, mahalo for allowing us to have this space and time to share mana'o. I just wanted to keep to the question. It says, how else would you describe the destination we hope to get in the next 20 years? I think definitely one, food, and second, energy. I think as beneficiaries, we should be allowed to practice these things that we need essential in life without basically really going into poverty. So I think we should have more access to allowing us to provide food and energy. And there's a lot of opportunities. If you look around the world, other countries are producing energies, and that's not with solar panels either. That's with like biogas. These are things that we need to start really thinking about moving forward. And second, in order for us to get to these places, I feel like DHHL has to do a solid inventory of where all our lands are at. Because there are lands that we know that is part of Department of Hawaiian Homestead that are not accounted for. So that comes with transparency, that comes with accountability, a lot of things that needs to be put in place. And I really think in the next 20 years, energy and food is going to be a big deal for our communities here, not only Hawaiians, just in general across the Pai'aina, the state. So if we want to be sustainable, we got to be able to provide our own food, not only for our communities, but right across the state. So why not be the forefront leaders? Because we get the aina. So what I'm suggesting, DHHL, is be more transparent with finding out where's all the aina inventories. We're always saying that people don't know where the inventory lands are. Lu'ulu'ule Valley, I know in Wai'anae that was DHHL. What happened? We're talking about a huge ahupua'a. That is the biggest ahupua'a in Wai'anae. So these are things that I think moving forward, if we want to get to our destination where in 20 years, the land's got to show up, they need to appear. And we need to have that opportunity to be able to develop community, develop in a more pono way. You cannot bring all these entities coming and telling, how our own communities, our own kupunas, they were these farmers, old practices that we need to bring back. So, and that's all I'm saying. I really would like to look to see that you guys providing more transparency of all the inventories of Aina. Mauna Kea, how many of us knew that Mauna Kea was part of DHHL? I didn't know that. So before this all happened, but I'm just saying, but mahalo again for you guys' time and giving us the space to share our mana'o. Mahalo.
Yeah, thank you. Just some of those chicken skin kind comments. It's really good. So, okay, Home, go ahead.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes.
So it's Home, short for Home Lani.
Oh, sorry.
And I just wanted to touch on the beneficiary consultation question. So it's my understanding that under Title 10 admin rules, the department is required, and by department, I mean department staff, is required to present their recommendation to the commission. If the commission doesn't approve it, then it doesn't go further. So in the case of the gaming requests, in order for that to move forward, the department needed to go to the commission. If the commission did not approve it, it wouldn't have gone any further. So it would have stopped there. So that's why the department staff is required to do their presentation before the commission, and then the commission decides whether or not that recommendation will move forward. If it does, then it moves forward for beneficiary consultation. If it doesn't, then it dies pretty much. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We have about 45 minutes left in our time together. And that's about as much time as we need to get through the rest of this presentation. I don't see any more hands up. So for guys on our team, do we miss anybody in the chat that wanted to ask a question or have a comment to give? Doreen, I guess I sorry I didn't catch your name the first time, but I see you waving your hand. So if you have a quick one, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Doreen.
Oh, Doreen.
Okay, fast one. I wanted to expand on Jolene's testimony. I myself is very concerned that DHHL's asset is land-based. And Article 203 of the Hawaiian Homes Act gives the metes and bounds of the land. And you notice everyone ends more or less. And why do I suspect when it comes to Hawaiians, there's always less? So I always felt that we should, and this was told to me by a surveyor that I hosted, and he worked for Lawrence Livermore. And he mentioned to me that, Hawaii, you folks sort of messed up because in the 49 other contiguous states, all land is based on 40 square miles. He said, I went to the archives and I found this word I never heard before. It's called ahupua'a. And he said, that's going to cause us a lot of problems in the future. So based on his knowledge, I feel that DHHL should contract with someone to survey all the land starting from the act and how it went, where it went, who it was swapped with, was it legal, was it illegal? And I bet you would, as Jolene mentioned, there's so many Hawaiians I've talked to will tell you about the past where they remember they own all these property and now they have nothing to show for it. My wife is from Kalihi, and she was told by her grandma or grandpa that they own below the ko'olaus, but they're all passing away, and when you ask them, they don't remember nothing. But this is a very common story. Almost, if any of you know Scarlett Rossetti, she was a very good friend of mine, and she told me that her family owned about 20 acres of land around Pearl Harbor. But after they were told to leave because of the war effort was given to the military, and she said, when you're young, you don't pay attention to that. My question is, why DHHL do not inventory the land? Somebody told me that they did to get that 600 million, but when I asked Homestead, not Homestead, but DHHL leaders, they sort of cannot answer whether yes or no if we definitively inventory all our lands in the state. So there was a question that I would like to be brought up. And I don't know if Andrew, you could answer me that question, but or Julie, you know, you've also been there a long time. Has there ever been an inventory, a total inventory of all the Hawaiian homeland from the start to current?
I think, Ron, to answer your question, we have a GIS inventory of lands, and to explain what that is. So a GIS inventory is a geographic information system. It's a computer generated a computer record of our lands. It is not what they call survey accurate, like to the square inch or square foot. It is a general inventory of our lands that gives us a approximate idea. So we have not had a surveyor go out and provide survey level detail of our land, like down to the square inch. But we do have a higher level inventory in GIS.
I noticed something on the.
So I guess what you're trying to say, or correct me if I'm wrong, is that the department needs to, in the next 20 years, the department needs to provide more accurate inventories of its lands and keep better record.
There's no doubt, because we all know in the past there were some sort of funny kind of land swaps, right?
Actually, you know, Daryl's time, Daryl Yogadich, they had done it very comprehensive from the act, starting from the act, the more or less statement, right? And kind of walked it forward. And I think there's only one area where there was still outstanding, you know, they didn't do that kind of really deep search in it, but pretty much all of the areas have been done from the act forward.
Okay,
You know,
so for Julie and Andrew.
Julie, would that be in the archives?
It's an internal study. We have it, you know, in our library, basically.
Is that publicly available?
Yes.
It's available in our island plans. So if you go to our website, and I'll drop it in the chat.
I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to Jolene, just one more fast one. I found it on the DOI website too.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Okay, great. At this time, you know, we only have about 40 minutes left now, but I want to move into the next big part of our meeting. So apologize if I didn't capture everybody's comments in the chat that was kind of going. But at this time, let's move in to the next section of the meeting and then see if we have extra time to take any additional comments. Otherwise, you know, I'm gonna have to say go to our open house if you have more comments for us, or reach out to us directly. Okay, let's go into the next section of the meeting.
Okay, mahalo, Jared. It's my turn. My name is Malachi Krishak. I'm also a planner with SFM. And this next section of the presentation really we're trying to grow off of kind of what we talked about with the vision, but take a step back and look back. Kind of the last 100 years since the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act was passed. Also looking at the last 20 years since the last plan was adopted. And then, and hopefully we'll have time at the end to talk a bit more about opportunities for goals moving forward. Kind of what from the past, from the last plan, do we want to take with us towards our new 2040 vision that we're working towards. Just quickly to share some ways in which you can kind of review what happened in the past since the last 100 years, since the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. You know, obviously a lot has happened, a lot of significant events that shaped the department and the policies used to implement the trust and deliver lands to Native Hawaiians. And on the online open house, we compiled kind of interactive timeline that you can look at and scroll through of watershed events through the last 100 years. So the types of events included in here, are important milestones like the first homesteads on Molokai, the various types of awards, the different things the department has tried over the years, as well as adoption of different policies within the department, like the planning system. We also include some significant periods of activism in the Native Hawaiian community, which really influenced the way the department acts as well. And also included things that I'm sure a lot of you folks are really familiar with significant lawsuits, acts, like I heard Act 14 getting mentioned a couple times here, which really affected important things like the funding for the department, the land inventory, and legal validation for the Hawaiian Homeland Trust's right to lands and funding and water. Another thing that we did to look back is, along with the department, the planning team worked to develop a evaluation of the last general plan, the 2002 general plan. And the evaluation really was to look at the performance related to the last plan's goals and to understand where the department has put their efforts over the last 20 years and what was really effective. So we looked at the department's annual reports, relevant plans and policies. We completed some interviews with former staff and some former chairs of the commission. We did look for some feedback from the investigative committee that Melissa mentioned, and looked at other available information. And with this, we really wanted the report card to kind of provide a bit of a snapshot of the current status of implementation of the last plan's goals. And so to do this, we came up with this kind of grading system using checks. So a check minus within this evaluation can be viewed as a goal in which few, if any, resources were really allocated towards meeting that goal by the department. A check indicates that the department implemented plans and policies related to the goal, but did not necessarily feel that they met that goal in implementing it. And then a check plus our goals in which the department feels that programs and policies were implemented, and the information kind of shows that the department met or exceeded the objective or goal from that time. So as was mentioned, the last plan was the first comprehensive planning effort. So the evaluation looks at the overall, these topic areas of the comprehensive plan. So the previous plans were really land-based. So the last plan before the 2002 plan was actually 1976. So the 2002 general plan broadened the scope to look at a wider range of areas where the department functions. And those areas, I think Melissa talked about, were land use planning, residential uses, agriculture and pastoral uses, but also water resources, land and resource management, economic development, and community building. So these are the areas in which we looked at, and which we're going to look at in the next couple of sections to get your mana'o on what from these do we want to take with us, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what you feel might be missing. It's kind of growing from the conversation we just had, actually, because I think we heard a lot from you folks on that. But before we get into that, I did want to share, because we don't really have the time to go into details of this assessment that we completed, and go through all of the evaluation, the grades, and the information that's included in there. So we did want to let you know that there is an opportunity for you to really look a little bit closer at it and provide your mana'o and let us know what you think about the assessment. So on the online open house, you can click, if you scroll down, you can click on the evaluation, and it will take you to the more detailed version here, where you can see the goal, the breakdown of some of the findings, the sources, the data sources that were used, and that check grade. And on this, you can actually provide your thoughts directly. You can provide your thoughts directly on the findings, or you can also click on this icon up in the left-hand corner and let us know if you agree or not with the findings. And we understand that some of you might not agree with the evaluation, the check grade, but this is your opportunity to write down your thoughts, share with us your mana'o. Maybe it's something that we missed. And we're going to review everything that you do say, add to this. And then this also on this page, you can also answer the questions that we're going to go through the rest of this meeting answering. So it kind of mirrors this next part of the meeting, which is to look at from the last plan, generally, which of the goals are most important to you? Which ones do you feel are so relevant to take forward with us to 2040 vision? And then at the end, we're going to talk about if there are any goals not included in the last plan, which you think should be included in this update. So thanks for letting me get through that quickly. We're going to make the little bit more interactive part again. And we're going to go back to Mentee Meter if you can. If you want to go back to mentee.com or open up if you already have it open. And we're going to run through the last plan's goals, just overview. And we'll ask you to answer on a scale, a sliding scale there, which of the goals from the last plan you feel are still important to bring forward with us towards 2040. So if you can get back on there, I'm going to run through it and you can follow along with me and answer your importance. We'll take a look at the results. And then if you have questions, you can raise your hand and we're going to go into a little bit of another open talk story about the goals. So the first area from the last plan, like we said, was land use. And there's 3 goals under land use. The first one relates to finding appropriate uses on Hawaiian homelands that meet the needs and desires of you, the beneficiary population. The next one is encouraging a balanced pattern of contiguous growth, and this is related to urban and growth centers. So this is focusing on kind of areas like on Oahu, the Kapolei region, which was identified as a growth center. So, since 2002, a lot of the new homes have been in Kapolei, and that was one of the goals from the last plan, is to follow those growth patterns. And then the last one here is develop livable, sustainable communities to provide space. And I think the important piece to point out too is access to amenities that serve the needs of the residents. And that kind of varies from community to community and person to person. So you can see some of these are broad. So let's take a look at some people responded. We have 8 responses so far. If you haven't yet, please jump into Mentee Meter and add your thoughts here. You can see this first one is a lot of people really feel this one's really important to keep with us in the plan update. This contiguous growth pattern in urban rural growth centers looks like actually less important moving forward for the folks here. And then livable, sustainable communities is another one that's really, really important to take with us. So we're going to keep going and keep answering your questions. If we move forward, you can still answer it. And all this information that we're using is going to be recorded for us and used as we in the next meetings and also as we develop the policies and plans along with you folks. So I really encourage you to participate if you can.
And Malaka, I'm going to stop you right there because Kanani brought up a great question in the chat, basically asking, how are we going to use the mana'o that we're gathering on the 2002 general plan review. And Andrew actually answered in the chat, but just for everyone's information, I'm gonna reiterate that. So the question was, let's see, do you actually use a mana'o that we're expressing for the 2002 general plan evaluation? What will you do with it? And from Andrew, he says, based on the comments in the GP evaluation, it helps us identify what goals are still important and relevant today, and that we should be including for the next 20 years. So that's why it's important. We understand your input on these goals, how the department did or is doing. It helps us formulate the goals for the next 20 years, basically. So yeah, that's all I want to say.
Awesome. Jared for jumping in. I missed in the chat. Okay, great. So we'll keep going and keep collecting your mana'o on this. But the next goal area from the last plan was residential uses, so for homesteads. But the first goal was to substantially increase the number of homesteads each year. And I think actually when it gets down to the objectives, like the next level of detail, they included a goal of an average of 500 per year. Just an idea of how it was measured. Providing a mix of housing opportunities. So that's kind of what we heard earlier in terms of reflecting the needs and desires of the beneficiaries. Maybe that's changed since the last plan, but if as a goal, maybe we can break that down further in this update or adjust it. Providing residential homestead financing. I saw in the chat a lot of comments about this too. And that's especially for those most in need in the last goals. Developing integrated and residential communities that reflect diverse socioeconomic profiles. Kind of relates to the last one. And then the last two are ensuring homestead neighborhoods are maintained as healthy and attractive communities for future generations. Just making sure that the department is doing their part in helping maintain it. The community associations, the associations are being supported in their efforts, and homesteaders are also, and lessees are also supported. Increasing the potential. The last one is increasing the potential to qualify for residential and housing financing. So similar to the one above, and something we see is really important. That one. All of these seem to be kind of top of mind in terms of importance for everyone. We're not seeing when I hover over this, you can see if there's a couple of votes in the lower in each area, and you can see here that almost everything is towards the most important. Okay. So agriculture and pastoral leases, again, increasing the number of leases awarded each year. Providing infrastructure and technical assistance commensurate with the intended uses of agriculture and pastoral lots. So, providing support for agriculture and pastoral uses on trust lands, and then providing agriculture and pastoral commercial leasing opportunities. So that's commercial, looking at commercial, for instance, like supplemental agriculture, and conserve the most productive ag lands for intensive agriculture and pastoral uses. So these are kind of broad, and we heard some more related to food production earlier. So maybe we can talk about that when we move into the next part of the discussion. If anyone has anything to share. We see that last one is a little bit more towards kind of the middle here, 3.5. And obviously 15 people on here. If anyone else wants to join in, please feel free, or you can even enter your thoughts on the chat if you're not able to view Mentee Meter. Water resources was the next goal area. So providing access to quality water, ensuring availability, and then aggressively exercising aggressively exercise and protect Hawaiian homeland's water rights. So this is, since the last plan, the water policy plan was adopted, and a lot of action was put towards this, I think. But we know that there are still issues and conversations and maintenance concerns as well. But this is super duper important, super important to everyone. Everything's the most important. So maybe this is a goal area that people have other ideas to expand on in the general plan. Okay, so the next one is land and resource management, and there's only one goal in this area, this topic area from the last plan, which is to be responsible long-term stewards of the trust lands and the natural, historic, and community resources located on those lands. This is super important. Everyone puts this as very important. I would note that there hasn't been a lot of emphasis on this on the side of the departments in terms of staffing and resources for just various reasons. But so that's why it's really great to get feedback on these types of things. And so we're seeing like nobody views it as less important. It's all towards the top. Okay, a couple more goal areas to run through, and then we'll open up for discussion on what's missing. So the next one is economic development. And this first one is related to generating revenue using trust lands which can be used towards fulfilling the trust mission. And then we see the next one is more related to the communities, the beneficiary communities. So provide opportunities for uses within the within communities, providing land use designations for beneficiaries for economic activity. So you see that one is viewed a little bit more important. You see more people towards the second one here versus using trust lands to generate revenue. Okay, and the last one, the last topic area from the general plan, 2002 general plan, was building healthy communities. So empowering homestead associations to manage and govern their communities, and then establishing self-sufficient healthy communities on trust lands. The second one is a little bit more broad, but there's been programs implemented in both of these areas, I think some of you are familiar with, and these are both important. So I see a lot of these goals from the 2002 plan. Again, you can look back at the evaluation in terms of maybe how they were implemented, but from what we're seeing here, most of these are still really important. So I'm going to pass it off to Jared to facilitate a discussion around this, around what you just saw, and then so we can talk a bit more about if any goals are missing.
Yeah, thanks, Malachi. So, I mean, it's pretty clear to us as we go through these meetings and get these kind of responses that a lot of these goals are still very important, and it can vary between being important and very important still. Not a lot of them, almost none of them are not important anymore. So that's clear to us. But right now we're going to open up for discussion again. So the same way that, raise your hand and all that stuff. But what we want to hear in this part 1 of consultations is what goals are we missing? What goals should we add to the list to carry forward over the next 20 years? And I'm going to open it up for discussion now. I don't see any hands. Oh, go ahead, Kelly and Allison. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. One of the goals that Kelly said he would like to see moving forward is kind of a restatement of before a re-emphasis or at least a re-allowance of traditional lifestyles, which is what the original Hawaiian Homes Act is supposed to be for, so that so that DHHL would help make sure that homestead, that home or neighborhood associations, whatever they're called, homestead associations, don't try to limit whether their neighbor can have pigs and chickens, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? There has to be a balance between the desires of Hawaiians who are wanting the more American European lifestyle, but that's not what the Hawaiian Homes Act was made for. And so DHHL should help moderate the influence of the Hawaiians that are trying to live like Americans, so that the Hawaiians that want to live like Hawaiians actually are the main focus or main benefit.
Yes, excellent. That's very, very good. Quite a challenge, but very good comment. Okay, I had Ekolu next and then Kila Kila after that. Go ahead, Ekolu.
I agree with what Kelly and Allison was saying too. Another thing I would like to put on a goal thing is, I think DHHL actually should go into the communities and look at, there's a lot of property that's not even being used, like from older beneficiaries that pretty much a lot of them like either moved away or they're not even taking care of it anymore. And like the grandkids or whatever, I guess has the names under them, but nobody's living there. So it's like, how is that part of can DHHL help for I guess keeping track of the inventory, I guess. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, good comment too. Next I had Kila Kila. Go ahead.
Hey, hi Lama. How's it? How are you? Sorry, that was the last speaker, but what up, boo? My comments, thank you guys for having us today. I appreciate it. Another goal that we was missing is like my grandfather passed away on the list. He never got awarded anything like many other Hawaiians. So like, yes, I understand the primary goal is to get anyone that is qualified on the wait list right now to get them on the land. But what about all the other kupuna that passed away waiting? Because that's so many. Is there any way for us, is anyone considering like, what then? Because yeah, I don't qualify right now, but my kupunas have and they didn't get it. So I think that would be something that we should definitely consider as well, like fill out, like complete the duty. Mahalo.
Yeah, another good comment. You're not the first one to bring that up too. That we heard that at the last meeting also. So thank you. Anyone else? Okay, it looks like, oh, I got two coming through in the chat. Kekahili first and then Kanani next. So Kekahili, go ahead.
Mahalo, Jared. To build on what Kila Kila was mentioning, I wanted to ask you, does the applicants have a successorship? Can they have a successor for them when they pass, should they not receive an award?
Good question.
Julie, you wanted to take this one?
Again, yeah, there are successors to those on the wait list, but you have to be 50%. So, and yeah.
Okay. So yes, there is a successorship for the applicants, but they have to make sure that that successor is 50% Hawaiian, correct?
Correct. As opposed to a lessee. If you're holding a lease, then your successor can be 25%.
Correct. So I think that needs to be communicated to, a lot of the kupunas today that are waiting. That, I don't think that a lot of people are aware that they can put a successor in their place should they pass away before they get awarded. I mean, I would prefer to see our kupunas be awarded, but at least they know that they've passed on something to their mo'opuna or their ohana. And I know that I was not once aware of that until my mama made me aware of that. And I just wanted to bring that up as an awareness. Mahalo.
Yeah, thank you. Good for bringing that up. Kanani, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna do this super quick, and it was to piggyback. I think it was on Jolene's statement. Because your question was something that I wanted to add. If to generate some type of revenue for DHHL, to explore alternative energies such as hydroelectricity as well as like thermal energy. Yeah, that was just my comment. Mahalo.
Yeah, good one. I like that one. Okay, looks like I got two more hands up. Jolene and then Kaaka. Go ahead, Jolene.
Okay, how's it, you guys? Anyway, I think, I don't know if it's a goal or what, but I think one of the goals that you guys talked about in the presentation was economical development. I think we need to also add economical development includes opportunities for our communities, our Hawaiian communities. So for example, like what Kanani was saying about energy, providing economical development kind of industries that is culturally sensitive in the communities, but providing opportunities for our communities to operate these energies instead of having HECO come in and take over everything. And then I think the next, I don't know if it's a goal, this one, but and I know Department of Homestead is a state agency, and I know people who work there try their best, but I think actually having that more cultural sensitivity while working with Hawaiian communities, and I'm gonna be honest, working with Hawaiian communities is not easy. People come at with you with choke, kind of all these questions, and some we come with heated angerment about stuff. I just thinking having more of that kind of liaison too, that's probably in the department that has that cultural sensitive, because even if you guys are a state agency, I think you guys, I think compassion and more empathy has to be added to that, because people, most of the community that do come, they don't understand. They just see what they see. So having more of like that understanding, like with I don't know, just dealing, knowing who you're dealing with. Beneficiaries, we're not the easiest people. And you know, in some way I apologize for that, but I think just being more culturally sensitive and aware of the community that you working with as well.
Mhm. Very good. Okay, Ka'aka and then Kila Kila.
I think one goal that's missing as far as is the amount of transparency between the department and the beneficiaries. Being able, or maybe a goal to be streamlined. It takes forever to get a decision out of the out of Kapolei back to Hilo into Kyokaha to be able to do something on your land or get approval or a lease extension, you know, as well as like the whole process of the beneficiary consultation, even the policy that I just read during this meeting, it's kind of in a timely manner, it's not even identified. So like looking at policies, getting it to flow a bit better where the beneficiaries can understand it instead of just being a whole big bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's good.
Mahalo.
Okay, Kila Kila and then Mapuana.
Aloha again, just to piggyback off of what Jolene was saying, I think it should be a priority for you guys to Olelo Hawaii. Everyone in you guys' department should Olelo Hawaii or have some kind. I mean, once you Olelo, then you'll understand our culture and you'll understand us better. So that should really be a priority for you guys. Olelo Hawaii. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you for that. Mapuana.
Okay, mahalo. I was just thinking about, you know, in a community like ours, and mahalo for the compassion and the empathy. And yes, it is hard working with our own sometimes, but I appreciate them. That's what keeps me grounded. However, I would like to see a goal, perhaps with the department provides a manual. If I'm going to apply, what is my process? If we do successorship, what is the process for that? Because I think it changes along the way, but by the time we realize it, I don't know, because I didn't realize that you could sell your properties. I thought that was something that couldn't, but then when you're seeing it in the back of papers that's saying the DHHL lands or residential lot is for, I think the policies or some manual that if I'm gonna apply for Hawaiian Homes, what does it take? What do I need to come with, as opposed to going back and forth, trying to figure out what else do I need? What else do I need? Something that's clear and can be updated when things change, and that's consistent could be one of our goals, I think. But that's my thoughts. So mahalo.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, I see. Kaka, you still got your hand up? You have another follow-up thought?
No, I just forgot to put it down.
Okay, Jolene, looks like you just put your hand up, so go ahead.
I know, sorry, Jared. I just wanted to, I mean, this is probably far-fetched, but not. But even like working along the lines with, I don't know how state agencies, but working along the lines with the trusts in some way, getting, you know, for example, Liliuokalani Trust or Kamehameha Schools, they have all the data as well. Just getting info and insights from them as well, like working together, because they are Hawaiian agencies who just completely works along their own borderlines. But I think even like reaching out to them or them reaching out to DHHL, helping the community, the Hawaiian community as well. I'm looking for more understanding and educational purposes too.
Okay. Got that? Kelly and Allison, go ahead.
Just one more thing we had been talking about that we didn't get to say. Moving forward, so we have some other family members that do have land awards and that they struggle with their mortgage payment that they had to take on a house because that was the only kind of property available and awarded to them. And it causes a lot of family stress, and especially with the stories we've heard and the true things that have happened with like people committing suicide by lighting their house on fire because their whole land award was going to be taken away because they couldn't keep up with the payments. So my question is, or my Lee was saying, perhaps moving forward for the next set of goals and visions could be make sure that the land award is never inexorably attached to a mortgage payment on a house, that if the bank wants to take their house, they can put it on rollers and remove it from the land award.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. That sounds pretty rough. Let's see. You guys have your hand up still. I don't see any other hands up. Was there anything from the chat we needed to bring up? Looks like there's some discussion on whether properties can be sold.
I'm trying to type an answer in the chat, but
okay.
I will probably just say it verbally.
Go ahead.
So my understanding is that lessees have the right to transfer their property to another qualified beneficiary on the wait list. The department cannot control whether or not that transfer involves a monetary transaction between the lessee and the person on the wait list. But the Act does allow for the transfer of a homestead lease from one beneficiary to another qualified beneficiary.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I almost forgot. We got a couple more slides left just to wrap up and next steps. So I'm going to cover this real fast. Let's see. Malachi, can you get back to the presentation? Okay, wrap up next steps. So like I was saying, this is round 1. We're going to come back with round 2. This is going to be in April. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have 3 meetings to give as much people opportunities to participate in these meetings as possible. We're going to record them. We're going to broadcast them on the public access TV stations. So in the next round, what we're going to do is what we want to do, report back to you on what we heard in these meetings, present to you after we take everybody's input on the vision, present a draft vision statement and the elements to everyone again, so we can take another crack at it. And then we want to gather input on land use designations, desired uses of Hawaiian homelands, and how DHHL lands can benefit beneficiaries. So that's the meat of the discussion for round 2, will be on land use designations, and what that means going forward. And that's in April. Okay, those meetings are in April. Next slide. Just another plug for the virtual open house. We can go past that. We'll get to our points of contact. So we got Andrew Choi's phone number and his email up there. We also have Melissa May, our project manager's phone number and email. You can also find these on the open house and other ways to reach us. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. And I think that's the last slide, but with the last few minutes of our time together, I'm going to ask Malachi just to do a quick preview of what you can see on the open house and just walk through how to navigate this guy.
Sure. Okay. Mahalo, Jared. Okay, I just pulled it up. So actually I just clicked the link that Matt put all the way at the top of the chat. Matt, maybe if you can resend it. Oh, looks like you did. Okay, perfect. So this is the virtual open house page, and it's just a web page, but it's interactive. So I'll show you some of the features. This is just an overview of just the open house. This is here is the same presentation that was given, and I think Jared mentioned that we we recorded our voices for it. So when you click through, you'll actually hear a voiceover from the same people who presented during this meeting. So if you want to hear our voices again, go ahead. It may be a little different than what you heard. So, but these are broken down in the sections. And then we have for each section, we have some interactive features. So in the first section, looking back, this is the interactive timeline that I showed in the slide, and you can see when you scroll through, it will have pictures. There's some maps in here, I believe. You can even click on years to see what was going on at the time during those years. So I encourage you to just look at that. It's just it's interesting, and Matt did a really good job of putting that together. All through this section, along with the presentation, we have the actual 2002 general plan, which is, as Melissa mentioned, 6 pages. So you can click on that if you want to read the whole plan, or you can look at you can read the goals here in this evaluation, which again, it provides you the opportunity to let us know what you think, to share your thoughts, whether you agree or not. I saw that there's some comments in the chat about maybe some people not agreeing with some of those evaluation check grades. So that's exactly what we want to hear in here. And so if you click on something, you can see the full kind of will pop up here. Sorry, I don't know why these lines. Let me see if I can get these lines off of my screen. It's like someone's drawing. They're all drawings. Okay. Oh, I just did it. Okay, but so you can see it's a little more detailed than what was shared in the presentation. So it has these findings along with the goal, and then you can do it one of 2 ways. You can actually click on a section if there's like a specific thing that you want to comment on. You can leave a comment directly on the PDF, or you can click on these icons. So the thumbs up is if you agree or not with it. You can let us know, and then you can write however long you want. I think I'm not sure if there's actually a word limit on this, but I think it's pretty long. So you can write your feedback here on whether or not you agree, and then also the discussions that we had. Which of these goals are important? You can click on which ones. You can click on all of them or not, and then if anything's missing, this is open-ended. So so really would love to hear more. Hear what you think. If you didn't get a chance to talk, or if new ideas come up, this is an opportunity. This is going to be open throughout the consultation process, the beneficiary consultation process. And
oh, sorry, one more reminder. Just scroll up to the very top of this page, Malachi, and it's kind of small, but in that black bar there, there's a register button.
Sorry.
And we want to encourage everybody to register. I think you have to put in your name and your email address, which will stay confidential. But what that does is every time you want to add a new comment on any of these pieces in open house, then you don't have to put your name and information in every single time if you register one time. So that encourage everyone, go ahead and do that.
Yes, definitely will make it a little bit easier. And the last thing you can provide your input on is the vision. So we talked about earlier in the presentation. You can provide your comments on how you describe a destination in 20 years. And then actually what's kind of cool here is when you enter your thoughts, you can see what other folks say. So you can see Commissioner Neves here left his thoughts in terms of what he sees in 20 years. And you can vote up or down the things, but we really encourage you to write your own comments if you have the time. And then lastly, we have the upcoming events here. So these are the ones that happened, and then we're gonna update the part 2, which is gonna focus on land use, more specifically looking at how we connect with lands, and then those land designations and land uses that can be included in the update. Then if you just have general questions or comments you want to make, you can fill out this form down here. And this will go directly to us, and we can respond directly to you. So that's just a quick overview.
All right. And with that, we are 2 minutes over, so I apologize for that. But before I turn it over to Andrew to close this out, I just want to say mahalo to everybody. This has been a great meeting. I appreciate all the comments we got during this meeting and in the chat, and we're going to be getting busy with using all of it. So I'll turn it over to Andrew at this time.
There was one quick question in the chat about the next meeting date. So again, it's April 1st, 5th, and 7th. But the department will also be sending out postcards and emails like how we did for these meetings to remind people about the meetings on April 1, April 5th, and April 7th. I guess for the closing, I'll turn it over to Julie because she, in the last couple of meetings, had a great closing line. So go for it, Julie.
Just saying, this is a major thing. We do this every 20 years, and you have the opportunity now to kind of capture direction for the department, and if if you've ever watched a commission meeting, right? The Hawaiian Homes Commission is really the policy setting board for the department. And this is your opportunity as beneficiaries to me to kind of set the frame even bigger than that to kind of direct the commission in the right direction, right? So they can make decisions on various things before them. So I don't know, this, we only get this bite of the apple. We only get this opportunity every 20 years. So just in that time frame, if you look at it, that's how important this is. So I hope you weigh in, and I hope that what we come up with does resonate back with the beneficiaries. And it's time for us, to me, to be able to capture like what the beneficiaries want in the department to do, and that we resonate. That this plan could be that document to take us forward. That's the opportunity here. So this meeting was a big kind of kickoff. Hopefully you guys all go to the open house and really spend some time when you have time in your own space to kind of, really think about the directions and focus and type in your comments there. So that would be very helpful. But thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Mahalo.
And with that, we're going to close the meeting. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Be safe out there. Stay
Mahalo.
dry.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, team. I'm going to sign off.
Okay, Andrew, thanks.
Hey,
All
thanks,
right.
Andrew.
Okay, catch up
Thanks,
with you
Andrew.
later.
Yeah, see you later. Okay. All right. Round one is done.